Education is key. Don't just buy on price, buy on performance. Schedule a hands-on flow demo to get the real-world data your team needs. Because the best choice isn't always the lowest bid.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in this great nation of ours and in the world, we have some international viewers, I know. Hola from our Australian friends. So welcome to the March 2026 episode of the Bill Gustin Engine Company Operations Hump Day Hangout put on by Fire Engineering Magazine. We appreciate you being here with us. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. So we have a very special episode this week. We've got a lot going on. The topic is going to be stretching for success. I'm going to steal that title from Steve Robertson. Last couple episodes, we talked about setting up our engines for success. And now we're going to talk about how we get the gear off the engine to the front door where we need to be. We've got a lot of different representatives from the parts of the country. So we're going to discuss that today. A lot of good opinions. Please feel free to pipe in on the chat if you have anything to say. And always, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Key Hose. Just like the advertisement said, you get what you pay for in fire hose and in life. You get what you pay for. And if you go low bid, you're going to get cheap hose, right? Yes, Key Hose is not the cheapest hose on the market for a reason. It's expensive for a reason. And anyone who's ever used Key Hose will tell you it is worth the money. That being said, I'd like to send the mic over to our good friend, Captain Mike Dugan. Please introduce yourself, Mike, and say a couple words, brother.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is in your neck of the woods. Mike Dugan here. I'm happy to be here, and I am really, really thrilled to announce that this year at FDIC, we are going to be, FDIC Fire Engineering Books and Videos is going to be releasing Bill Gustin's columns. Your humble old captain, lessons from Bill Gustin from Fire Engineering Books and Videos will be available at FDIC in 2026. I can't wait. But as I said to Bill's daughter, Renee, yesterday, it's 600 plus pages. I hope he doesn't think I'm going to read the whole damn thing. Okay. But I've already read all of his articles, brothers and sisters. I already have. As they've come out in the magazine, I always looked forward to reading Bill's stuff. And I can't wait to see this. And the one other thing I want to say, and this is in Bill's memory, that Bill, as most of us know, took his own life. If you are having a problem or struggling, reach out, please. 988 is the suicide prevention hotline. Go online, go to your department, go to your doctor, go someplace. The world is better with all of us in there. Please, please, if you are struggling, reach out for help. We are here to help you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike Dugan. I as well am extremely excited about that book release. I will be, if you're looking for me at FDIC, I will be at the bookstore. I will purchase my copy, and anyone else who wants to purchase a copy, I would like to talk to you and just reminisce about our friend Bill Gustin. Captain Dugan, I will read the book. And when I read the book, I will have Bill Gustin's voice in my head, and all the stuff that Fire Engineering had to take out, all the stuff they had to remove that we all know what's in there, I'm going to be adding that in my head about the most inappropriate things that Bill Gustin would say when he lectured. All right. I'm going to pass it over to Chief Brent Brooks, the legendary Chief Brent Brooks from the Great White North. How are you today, Chief?
Fantastic. If you do that, that book's gonna like triple in size, won't it? I think there's more content that's not gonna be in the book, is it? All right, I'm gonna have to bring a duffel bag. Nat, do you want to just pull that one picture of Bill up, and it's got some captions on it? I just wanted to show this in appreciation of Bill. He created an environment in which the fire service thrives. So he's got these 88 articles. He's got his book coming out. Read it, and you'll understand why all of us here on this panel talk so highly about him, because he created an environment with in which the fire service thrives. And I hope we can all do that. So thank you, Bill.
Very good. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Daryl Liggins. Daryl Liggins. How are we doing? How's unemployment treating you, Daryl?
Oh, it's good. It's good. This book is it's exciting. It's called Humble Old Cap, which that word humble really does embody Bill. He was super humble. I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, what did he have? Nearly 50 years or so in the fire service. He was on the busiest companies Miami-Dade can offer. Just was a student and a teacher. And just, I'm so glad he left all these articles for us to have to learn from, even after his passing. So hopefully people get something out of it, and he's continuing to teach, beyond his passing. So, yeah, it'll be great to see that on the shelf. It'll be a little emotional, but I hope we all get a copy, and I hope everybody has something to learn from it.
You could not learn from it, Daryl. You couldn't. 88 articles. 80. So I when I teach, I always ask, who knew Bill Gustin? And, probably half the room puts their hand up, and I say, well, who knew Andy Fredericks? Who knows who that is? Most of the people raise their hand. And I say, did you know that Bill Gustin wrote more articles for fire engineering than Andy Fredericks did? So there is definitely a lot to learn in those pages for sure. Steve Roberts, another unemployed individual on the chat today.
What'd you say earlier, Clark? What'd you call us? I forget. You said,
yeah, this is so I'm looking at the roster today, and Jimmy Davis is in here to back me up. I'm looking at all these old guys. I think we're going to rename it from Engine Company Operations to the Antique Roadshow. That's going to be the new name for the chat.
That's pretty
we
good.
have to start off by scream, get off my yard.
No, Steve Robertson just recently retired, Columbus, Ohio Division of Fire, did 35 and a half years in the fire service. But, something about Bill, just a couple quick things that I thought was unique. I'm super looking forward to this book for multiple reasons, but one is I bet, Clark, I sat through his standpipe program no less than 15 times over the years. And I took at least 2 pages of notes each time of things he did not hit in the other programs. So to see all of this collaborated in one thing is going to just be epic to me, because I can't wait to get in and dig into it. But the other thing about Bill, real quick, anytime you saw him, Stevie Robertson, what's going on, buddy? Gosh damn it, we got to talk. And then he would throw a zinger at you and make you go think deeper about mid-rise. I'll give a mid-rise example. Stevie, these are nothing more than horizontal high rises. And it made me start thinking, he would just give you a quick zinger and then walk away and let you process that. And then you ended up digging deeper into it, because he just so blessed to call him friend, so blessed to have him as a mentor. I just truly can't wait to get my hands on this book.
Yep. And Steve, can you please share with everybody, and you know what I'm going to ask you, when you would see Bill Gustin after a day of hands-on and Steve Robertson refuses to wear sunblock, and you got to say it in his voice, all right, Steve? Every single time, like clockwork, the sun will rise in the east, and when Bill Gustin sees Steve Roberts' face, what does he say 100% of the time?
He goes, Stevie Robertson, your face is red as a baboon's ass. That was the greeting I got after a good day of hands-on in the sun. But man, I sure miss those greetings. I can tell you that, because I miss our humble old cap, and he always made you think and always made you want to go deeper. So, and he was in the front row of every one of my programs, and it was crazy. I'm like, why are you here? And he would be in the front row with his notebook beside Captain Morris or Jimmy, or just all these guys that I looked up to my entire career. And you want to talk about being humbled. It's having your mentors sit through your programs and then approach you after and say they really enjoyed it and learned something. So I won't hog the time, but man, I really do miss that guy.
That's a valuable lesson right there, Steve. You're never too old. You never have too many years in the fire service to learn something. And he sat in the front row of every single class. He went to FDIC and he would preach. And Bill loved his drink. And I'm not throwing stones because we all love our drink. Bill Gustin never missed a class. And he would preach that. He would tell people, don't drink so much. You got drinks at home. Don't come to FDIC and drink so much that you can't make the class. Hold it together and attend every single class. So,
yeah, he just special man.
Yep. Chief Dan Shaw. Another unemployed guy in the chat. Wow.
Can't afford a razor.
Yeah.
Oh, good, man. Dan Shaw, retired ops chief from Fairfax County. And yeah, I mean, I think we could spend an entire episode talking about Bill, but one of the things I think is so, and all of you guys have said it. I mean, he was sitting in the front row of a class. I remember the first year I taught there, he sat in the front row. I'm like, this is the guy whose articles I read. Is he here as like a spy? I see Bill, or captain at the point. Why are you here? He's like, I'm here to steal your stuff, which is so far from the truth. not a chance. But, the thing that I think Bill, and I think we're all parents in this group too, the same thing we tell our kids, right? The power that you get in life to be able to do things is through relationships and building relationships. And Bill didn't only build relationships, he was a connector, which is a rare talent, right? I mean, all of us here are because of Bill. He had us cross paths because he talked to this guy and talked to that guy. Hey, Jimmy, you got to talk to Dan. Steve, you got to talk to Brent. And he was a great connector. And I can tell you, like, the daunting but humbling privilege of being the technical editor and Bill's passing. He's trying to uphold the same thing he did, which was finding that young talent, finding those people who can contribute and build those relationships and be able to get more and more people to share their knowledge, because we are one big tribe. I mean, just like this group here, I mean, we're spanning from the West Coast to the East Coast to the Great North, and we're all sharing our insight and perspective. And Bill was a great connector, and he did a fantastic job of getting people to share their knowledge, because it was about the betterment of the fire service and not his ego, which was absent.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And Dan, I agree wholeheartedly. Every single person on this chat, Bill introduced me to directly, except Brent Brooks. And I met Brent Brooks in Florida, and I was there working with Bill Gustin. So indirectly, I met Brent Brooks through Bill Gustin. And I can tell you with 100% certainty that I would not be where I am in my career if it wasn't for his guidance and leadership. And my career has forever changed because of him, and my career is forever changed when he left us. And it's about
I've changed personally, not just my career, but he changed my mindset on you don't know enough. You think you know enough. You don't. You have to continue. Like, he changed me, not just my career, but he made me look at things completely differently in ways I never did.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Jimmy Davis. Hey, there's another guy that's actually on the job. Jimmy, how are you, brother?
I feel like the only one without the goatee, Steve, and then Dan without the beard and that, man. Yeah, I was going to try to wear it today, but I'm on duty, man. Clark, I'm just out there saving lives and stuff, man.
Changing smoke detector batteries and changing adult diapers and stuff. Me too, man. I know.
No, that's after like 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I chimed in a little bit late here. I'm going to probably say I'll be out again here during the show. So if I got to leave, I got to leave. You guys are jumping in on Captain Gustin. The one thing that I came to mind too is that, remember that saying is that the saying is, you complete me, man. You complete me. And I really do in such a way when it comes to just your growth and development, man. You just had that one person in your life that kind of just completed. I don't think I'm ever completed, but he was just there to really just sharpen you up, man. Really sharpen you up. I remember, same thing what Steve was talking about. For him sitting in on my classes, I felt compelled to say, you know what? I want to go sit down and let Captain Gustin talk. What do I know that he doesn't know? But he was, again, a great friend, but a big critic too for me as well. He was my best critic. Things that I do well and things that I need to work on. I miss him a lot, man. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him. And we're coming up on that 1 year. How time flies. I just miss my buddy, man. I really do, guys.
Yep. And
Can
Jimmy,
I
I
just-
remember the day that Bill called me up and said, "What are you doing? We're FDIC. What are you doing for dinner?" I got no plans, Bill. He says, "I'm meeting a buddy of mine, Jimmy Davis. Come meet us for dinner." I said, "I don't know who Jimmy Davis is. Chicago? What the hell is this Jimmy Davis guy?" And we went and we had dinner, and that's when I met you, Jimmy. And I can't say that. And you, Jimmy, have been extremely influential in my career as well. Right? Everyone on this podcast, extremely influential. And Bill brought us together, and he knew. And he had a way of teaching as well. I was thinking when you were talking, Jimmy, the way he taught, no matter who he was talking to, no matter what level, how many years of service, no matter the level of experience, education, motivated or unmotivated, he could talk to people and would never embarrass anyone. Even the simplest questions, he could answer the simplest questions. And if this person didn't even know about their own fire engine, about their own hose loads, anything like that, he could smooth it over, and he would send them questions that he knew that they knew the answer to. He never embarrassed a single student. He never came down on anybody that I knew of in the fire service. He had that special talent, and that's what I try to do. That's how I try to emulate his teaching style, and I probably fail every time. But
Hey, Clark, can I
Yes,
just
sir.
say something? Two things. First off, you guys will all remember this. This sits on my desk as a remembrance to the captain on my computer. But one of my heroes, Chief DiBernardo from the FDNY, reminds me a lot of Bill with his wisdom and everything. And he recently posted something, and I think it's one of the best things I've ever read. It says, "Beware the quote expert. I have been to thousands of fires, and I'm not an expert. What I say is I'm experienced. But I was lucky because I had the best fireman in the world working for me. There is no expert in firefighting. Nothing is routine. The red devil is going to come up and bite you in the ass. So you have to be ready."
wow, powerful.
That's good.
Thank you, Cap. All right. All tears aside and all broken hearts aside, I think Captain Gus would want us to carry on, and we all knew what his passion was, and that was engine company operations. So let's move right into our next segment, which is going to be stretching. How do we stretch our host success? I'm going to send this right to Steve Robertson. All right. You all right, Steve? You need a minute?
No, I'm ready to go, buddy.
All right, brother. Take it away.
Yeah, no, we talked last month, and I hit the 5 keys. What I feel the 5 keys to a winning engine are. Review those very quickly. Position the apparatus correctly. It's got to be in the right place. Number 2, estimate the proper size and length of the first line. Number 3, select the proper entry point. Number 4, stretch better than good. We are an engine company. Our primary job is to put hose on the ground, locate, confine, and extinguish the fire. We got to control what we can control. We control where we park. We're out there where it's nice and safe outside. We control how well we stretch the line and the angles we take on that to the fire. We control how fast we get dressed. We control all of those things, whether we can force the door or not. The things that we control, we have to be better than good at. And I truly mean that. Good is not good enough. When we're better than good at those things, and we take those first 4 things and we take the proper angles and such, guess what? The move and flow part is pretty easy. If we do our job outside, it makes that job inside so much easier. One thing I like to teach, and I've used it for a long, long time, we would stretch our line in line with the door. I've never understood people that stretch line this way when it has to go this way. All you're doing is creating a pinch point and making somebody basically stay at the door the entire fire. When we stretch in line with the door, that allows us not to lose that first valuable firefighter till the first turn inside. So we're saving a body there by doing it correctly. And if we take that even a step farther, Matt, if you could pull up the first video there, I got a little animation here, and it's what I call splitting the door. So the other one. So splitting the door, basically the fire's to the left. The engine is parked down to the right. The arrow to the left to the middle, 45 degrees to 50% for terminology purposes is the inside of the door because it's closest to the rig. 50 degrees in the middle to 45 away from the rig is the outside of the door. So if I set up my initial attack line on the outside, look at the angle I have to the fire. The second thing it gives me is look at where we place the backup line now. Inevitably, what happens is when we just stretch straight with the door all the time, that the backup line ends up burying the attack line, like completely buries it. And now we just make movement that much harder. When we actually split the door, we look at the placement of the line in relationship to the fire. In this case, like I said, the engine's down to on the left side. The right side would be considered the outside of the door, 50 to 45 degrees, 50 to 45. Closest to the rig would be the inside. What this allows is one solid movement, one movement from the rig to the fire. That's the goal. Running back and forth is not the goal. We want one movement from the rig, the stretch to the fire. And the last thing, there's two small parts to this that I see folks make small mistakes on. Number one is take your angles away from the entry point. Your angles happen away because your nozzle and coupling still needs to fall right on the center of the doorstep. Why in the centers? Because when we charge that line, it's going to expand. And if we take it to the far right or we take it to the far left, when we expand, we've created our own problem at the door where it's going to be outside the frame of the door. So nozzle coupling to the middle. If the fire's to the left, we're going to stretch outside, which is the angle farthest away, nozzle coupling to the middle, and that leaves the whole inside for the backup line.
That was a great illustration, Steve. Very good. Very good.
Yeah,
Makes me want to take one of your classes now.
Well, we still got, actually, they just added a 4th session to our Mid-Rise Mayhem Friday afternoon at FDIC. I think there's only a couple spots left. Chief Rhodes texted me the other day and said there's like 4 or 5 spots left. So if you're interested at FDIC in the hybrid hot program, we still have 1 session. They added an extra session, and I think there's 4 or 5 spots left, he said.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Steve. Jimmy, I'm going to go to you because I know your time is probably extremely limited on this earth. No, not on this earth. I mean on the chat today. All right.
Damn, Mark.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. I got to make sure there's not a banana peel over here by my seat. So slip and fall and break my neck. Steve, great illustrations, by the way. That was awesome. I'm still trying to figure out how to use a cell phone, man. I'm not at that point.
Have you found one that withstands getting run over by the rig yet?
Oh.
No. Tell us, Jimmy, something that you think you do specific on engine 43 that specific to your area, probably mid-rise, because that's your wheelhouse, mid-rise, high-rise. Tell me drop some nuggets on us, please, brother.
Yeah, you know what? Our building stock is the newer contemporary mid-rises. We got a lot of that. Those are urban infill lots. What they do is they knock down old buildings and they put up these new mid-rises. But we have a lot of old school type 3 ordinary, 3-4 story center staircase, rear porches. You know the layout. What you see is what you get with those buildings. These mid-rises, anything can go. Matter of fact, I would like to admit to everyone, I've been in these buildings and I actually get lost in them, man. I get lost in them. That's how big these things are. Our specialty over here is a walk-up. We do have some single family, but everything that we do is going to encompass or use stairs. In the fire service, firemen, I would like to say this is that we all have problems going and navigating stairs, especially when there's no well. If I can't grab a well, it's a conventional stretch up the stairs. So a lot of the guys trip over that too. So we actually spend time to kind of just refine our skills to go into some of these buildings and do some more of the complicated stretches. Some of the complicated stretches are, again, going in elevation, but also trying to figure out what your stretch is when you start going horizontal too. How much hose am I going to need? You got to continue not to read about it, but to do it, all right? And to build that muscle memory with that. I know, Steve, they were talking about in your video, which is just sticking out in my mind right now, is that our lead outs here, and it's probably with you too, and Daryl and Brooksy in an urban department, the stretches are hard because I have to overcome obstacles. First thing that I do is cars. All right, they're in the way. I got to clear that. Then I got to go through a security gate. All right. Then I got to go through lawn furniture. Then I got to go through all the bikes. Or if I go down a gangway, I got to go through garbage, get to the rear of the Charlie side of this building, which has everything you can imagine. So the stretch isn't like what we see or what we see on social media. For example, I know I talked about that. There's so many stretchers, 100 different stretches you can do. He says, we got to limit these down to your department and what is your culture saying too, and what is the system that you learned and what were you brought up with. So what we have is not easy, not easy whatsoever. And we're an urban city department, man. You're going to find all kinds of stuff. But those are some of the biggest obstacles for us. Again, getting back to my stair stretching, that needs practice, and I think we all do. Conventional stretches upstairs are very difficult to do, and that's one of our Achilles heels. But like I said, nothing can take the place, and I preach this all the time because you know why? Because I know it works, and I can place a safe bet on it. You got to get out there and train and play with your bundles. You got to continue to do your stretch, man. I don't have anything outside of that to offer.
Very good, Jimmy. Very good. And real quick, brother, what FDIC? What's your class? Your pre-conference?
Well,
pre-conference.
I'm going to be with you. If you don't remember, I'm just reminding you to remind yourself you're with us.
Right.
You'll be doing
Antique
the
Roadshow.
box, but yeah, what I'm doing is the tap and dance song. Actually, I'm going to be looking into mid-rises. Looking at, and I use some contemporary mid-styles, the stuff that you're seeing popping up all over America, in your backyard. So we're going to kind of just break those down a little bit and really give it a good examination. Knowledge is half of it, and the doing part is the other part. So just being aware of what you have and how these buildings are put together and what purpose they solve, and how do we do the input for us as the fire service to be successful on the fire ground. I'll also be with Brooksy very soon, brother. Very soon. What am I talking about? And
next week
we'll be doing the high-rise stuff too. So if you're there for the pre-conference workshop, you're going to get, here's a Captain Gustin line. Remember the smorgasbord, man. Get in line, bring your tray, and bring your plate. Because you're going to really pile all that stuff up, a little bit more mashed potatoes, some green beans, maybe some meatloaf. But you're going to get a whole variety over there. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep, good. And anyone who's listening, if you haven't heard Jimmy Davis speak about mid-rise, I would highly recommend it. He is comprehensive. He's experienced. He's done a phenomenal amount of research on it, not just Chicago Fire. He's done research all across the United States about laying hose in mid-rise. So highly, highly recommend it. We're about at the halfway mark right now. I'd like to, again, thank our friends at Key Hose for making this podcast possible. We absolutely appreciate you. And again, I'll reiterate, you get what you pay for in life and in fire hose Jimmy, I'm glad you talked about one of our hardest things to do is stretching hose upstairs. And I used to stretch hose a specific way until I worked with Chief Brooks. And Chief Brooks, I was watching him teach, and he has a very specific way of stretching hose up stairwells. And after I listened to Chief Brooks speak, I switched the way we load hose on our engine. We have high-rise hose packs on our engine, and we are in the Chicago load. And after I talked to Chief Brooks, I now, instead of keeping my high-rise hose packs in a compartment stuffed underneath the high-rise IC kit and all this stuff, now I store them on the back compartment, and we store them in the Chicago load. The female coupling is on the top, and I stack all three on top of each other. The top load is the nozzle section. And the reason we do that is preparing for a forward lay. I can shoulder on top of my regular load. Every time we go into a building and we don't know where the location of the fire is, we shoulder all three of those 50-foot sections of 2.5 with the female on the top. And if we have to extend the line, take care, Jimmy Davis.
Love you, buddy.
Finally got rid of that guy. Jeez, that guy would never leave.
He go.
You go. So, yeah. Good Lord, it's like your aunt, your wife's aunt. Jeez. So as we do the main stretch, and then we carry 3 sticks of 2.5 in the Chicago load with the female on top, so we can drop that female cufflink, extend the stretch. I learned that from Chief Brooks. Chief, I probably screwed all that up, Brent. Can you please elaborate on that and then talk about some options you have for actually stretching hose?
Oh, it's a great lead in. And Nat, I got that one picture. Actually, it's a Miami-Dade fire truck. If you pull up that picture, it's a bunch of hose packs on a truck. And I knew you guys would be talking about that one works as well. So apparatus design really has to change. And everyone says, well, Brooksy, when do we bring the 2.5? When are we bringing these high-rise packs? I'm like, stop calling them high-rise packs. They're hose packs. Hose packs are used just to get water from point A to point B, just like all fire hose. Stop calling them high-rise packs. They're hose packs. And apparatus design has to change because you're bringing a 2.5-inch hose line for that adults acronym. And especially, when you go into even a mid-rise building and a factory, and you're going to investigate, and if it's an unknown location or unknown size, well, you're unknown in the size of the hose line that you're going to bring. So we always investigate when it comes to the adults acronym with a 2.5-inch hose pack. And when we go with 3, we're already at the advantage of having 150 feet of hose downrange with us. So when we do locate that fire, our eyes and ears are on it. We drop the packs, we stretch up our line, but we're also bringing our standpipe kit with us. Even though it's not a standpipe equipped building, we've gone to investigate with our remote pump panel. That's what a gate and gauge is. It's a remote or a standpipe kit. It's a remote pump panel that we bring with us. So now we set up our 3 lengths of hose and we put our gate and gauge, but the stretch is coming to us. So we're doing a reverse lay and a forward lay simultaneously, and we find we get water so much quicker on the fire versus going to investigate, waiting, going in the Charlie side. This gives us that 360 audible that if I get in deep and I can go to the Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, whichever side I want, because I have 150 feet of hose, I have a gate and gauge with me. The pump comes around and feeds us. And what I like about having the gate and gauge, and this is not high-rise, fellas, this is just 2.5-inch hose packs. When that pump or engine gets around and they pump that gate and gauge, they're basically just sending that pump panel down range, and they're going to pump it at 150 PSI or 200 PSI. And I'm the end user. I'm just going to set my own pressure. And if I switch tactics, because it's a 2.5-inch hose line, I got multiple tactics, like the portable monitor, the floor below, the Bresnan distributor, the opposing tip nozzle, portable monitor, I can all do that off the front. So hose packs and hose beds and bumper loads and transverse beds, perfect. There's a Miami-Dade one. This is the modern fire services. Our fires are growing, spreading so much faster. They're so much more toxic. You're going to find transitioning to the larger hose line more and more often with the rate of speed that these fires are going to. So get comfortable with hose packs. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Chief. That is, yeah, that's a lot of information, and it's tough. It's tough to discuss laying hose on a podcast. So again, if you ever had a chance to listen to Chief Brooks speak or take one of his hands-on classes, I highly recommend it. Because like I said before, I was in the fire service for 25 years when I watched Brent Brooks lay hose, and I thought, wow, there's a better way. There is a better way, and I changed the way I lay hose after 25 years to do it the way Brent Brooks does. So thank you, sir. And again, if you ever get a chance, please listen to Chief Brooks speak. I got a big choice here. Should we talk to the truck guy, or we talk to the engine guy, or we talk to the boss man? What do you think? Let's hear the truck guy, Mike Dugan. What? Tell me drop some FDNY bombs on us, would you please, brother?
Well, you know what? That last picture spoke to me that we showed. And the reason it did was, as a truck guy, I'm the search rope guy. and it's on the engine, but I'm the search rope, but it's marked with the company number, which I think is one of the most important things on setting up your tools for success. Because if you're looking where engine 2 is, and this is on the hook at the end of the rope where you tie it off, and you tie it off outside the building, and you now know you're going in to follow up engine 2, you can see right there where they are. You can follow their hose line, or you can follow their search line. You now know the hose line is right, because a lot of times we're not sure which hose line is theirs, but we can follow their search line. So again, the truck and the engine, all of our coordination has to work together, and it has to be done the same. And we have to set ourselves up for success with things that work. Okay. And I think it's incredible. One of the things that I always talk about as a truck guy is we usually search for the fire in the truck company, in the FDNY. The truck searches for the fire because we don't want the engine to commit the hand line if they're in the wrong place, which has happened a couple of times in my career. But what we want to do is make sure that we are communicating it. But if I'm going into one of these, as you called them, as Bill called them, a ground scraper, if we're going into these high rises on their sides with these mid-rise buildings, whatever you want to call them, we're going in there looking for fire. We have to know what's going on. But as a truck guy, my whole thing is I'm not taking my truck company further than the reach of that stream on that hose line. I will not commit to going more than 75 feet inside that building before a hose line comes up to back up my truck crew. Because I don't want to go into a large place, and we can look at history, the Super Sulphur, some of the other large rapid fire involvement of buildings and everything else. You want to have the lines ready for that. And you don't want to commit your people all the way in. I don't want my people in the building 150 feet and all of a sudden have rapid fire progression, and now they have to get back out 150 feet. If there's nothing to protect them, no water, we are in deep, deep doo-doo. Okay, we are in trouble. So we have to coordinate all these things together. And I think that's one of the most important things. All of this, it has to be set up for success.
Cap Dugan, is that FDNY policy, or is that ladder 123 policy on how deep you're going to go inside of that building without a hose line? Yeah, can you please get a little more specific on that, please?
Sure. When I helped work with the search ropes, writing them for the FDNY, I asked that be put in the SOGs, Standard Operating Guidelines. And when it went to legal, they said no, because they don't want that in there, because if somebody didn't do it, then the department would be liable. So unfortunately, a lot of stuff that's written in the fire service is written through legalese, because it has to be approved to be put out there. I say this a lot to guys I see, a lot of young men who have their little training companies out there doing their stuff are posting videos on how to get into stores and everything else, how to get through doors and everything else. That's great. Except the only problem is if somebody who's not a good guy sees that, and now we've taught them how to get into a building, we can have some liability there. So you have to be very, very careful. Captain Morris in the FDNY put together one of the greatest things I ever saw, a book on forcible entry. And it was never released because they were afraid if it got out into the public that it would be a how-to manual for bad guys to get in. I remember back in the day, we had the hockey puck locks on the roll-down gates when they first came out. And some guy, and I don't know who it was, but God bless him, discovered that a pipe wrench, a 24-inch pipe wrench with a breaker bar on it, we could snap them off and pull them out and get the gates right up. Well, don't you think a month later, the locals were out going into plumbing supply and stealing pipe wrenches and finding pipes and breaking the locks off the doors of these places? And then they shielded them. I don't know if you remember when they shielded them with those big, because of what we found out worked. Well, so did the bad guys. So you have to be aware of that. You have to understand all of that. So it was more of my thing. because it couldn't be out there. But whenever we talked about it and drilled on it, we always talked about, you want to know where your protection is. What's going to save you if something happens?
Perfect. And any specific techniques or anything you would use, Captain Dugan, and so if your job is to locate the fire, is also the truck company's job to estimate the stretch and radio back down to the engine on how much hose they're going to need, or is that the engine officer? Okay.
That's the engine company itself. A good engine company knows what to stretch and how much to stretch by looking at the building. Okay? And they can bring it to the front door. They won't break it. The control man won't break it until he knows that the engine company has enough hose to get where they need and enough hose to get there. And I remember being a covering lieutenant working in an engine, and we went to a fire, and the engine company stretched 2.5-inch hose line. I did not tell them to stretch it, and they transmitted a second alarm, and we didn't really need it because they went up there with the 2.5 and put out this huge dance hall on the second floor of a taxpayer building. And they did a phenomenal job. And the chief came in and said, Lieutenant, that was phenomenal. I never saw the fire come out. The deputy came up and said, you transmitted a second. Where's all the fire? Oh, they went in there with the 2.5. And the chief came up and said, Lou, that was a great call. And I said, Chief, I didn't make the call. They made the call. The guys on the back step. And he went over and personally thanked them for making us look good. And that's what it's about. A good engine company knows what they're doing.
Yep, absolutely. Just like Steve Roberts said, good is not good enough, right? Yeah.
No,
All right. Retired Captain Liggins. Remember the old days when you used to stretch hose there, Daryl? Can you dig deep in that brain of yours and kind of drop some Oakland knowledge on us, brother?
Sometimes I wonder, was it all a dream or did it actually happen? Or was it a nightmare? I don't know. I'm thinking of a couple of things. One thing Steve mentioned was all the challenges of cars and gates and, locks and things like that. And that's not unusual anywhere. And places where that is unusual, if it's a very affluent area and very clean and tidy. And a lot of times we just have longer driveways, larger houses and things. But no matter which challenge you're met with, I have found the best way to combat that is help. And if that second due engine company's mindset is that we are helping the first due engine rather than competing against them for first water, everything's going to go smoother. What I would say at roll call is I always said what our duties were as the first, second, third due engine. I would just always repeat that with people outside the house. And I said, hey, if we're second due, our job is to help from the hydrant to the nozzle. And I didn't want us stretching another line unless the first one was already stretched and operating, and if that's what was called for. But usually that was going to be a third engine. We are still helping them until they get water on the fire. So that's one thing I think any organization can do, even if you are lightly staffed and your second due is an ambulance or a battalion chief can help with hose if you're lightly staffed. We see Isaacson do that down in his area. He's full of videos of moving hose and helping out. So we have to help out.
Daryl, on that note, can I interrupt real quick, brother?
Yeah.
Who in Oakland, whose job is it to get the water supply? Bring in the water supply.
Well, it's a forward lay organization. My personal favorite water supply when we're in the flats with more densely spaced hydrants is to backstretch and lay from fire to hydrant, but that's not commonly done there. And the reason I like that is it gets the engine out of the way, leaving the front for the truck, which isn't always needed for single families, but it gives you an additional member at the fire building instead of leaving somebody down the block. I think that is an underutilized tactic in many places. But the first due is responsible for their water supply. But it isn't uncommon for the second due to lay it to the first. But that's what the books say.
So that's kind of how we do it too, Daryl, in Clark County. First one goes right to the fire, operates off tank water. Second company is responsible for bringing in the water supply. And I had a situation last year. I had a situation with that. We had a garage fire that extended into the house. First unit comes on scene. They're assigned garage division, right? Start knocking down the garage. We were second in. We brought in the water supply, and we were assigned interior. So my firemen are getting the water supply. I open up the front door. House is on fire. The house is on fire. We've got black smoke to the floor. I pull that door closed. I make my own hose stretch, right? And then I'm waiting because my firemen are humping 100 feet of hose down the street connecting the hydrant. And I'm looking down the street. I got a charged hose line. I got a house that's on fire, and my firemen are 100 feet away. And that made me think, are we doing ourselves a favor by the second company? Or because we're in an urban department, you're gonna get 4 engines, a truck, and a couple rescues on scene in like 6 minutes. So I was thinking, would it behoove us to make the third engine company water supply? And it was just something I was thinking about. What are your thoughts on that, bro?
Yeah, that's done. There's a department not far from where I live, and that's what they commonly do. Is the second engine's goes tank water to the first engine, and as they say, if it's deemed necessary for a continuous water supply, it's the third engine. Very aggressive, very successful department. But another challenge I had with the area I worked in is a large amount of apartment buildings and a lot of fires on second floors. For some reason, even on these 3- and 4-story buildings, most commonly it was on the second floor. And that extra hand, rather than being down the block at the hydrant, to be on the attack line is really helpful. Something else I wanted to talk about was what Dugan talked about with the search rope. And he was talking about seeing that company number. I want people to think that these hand lines don't always have the company number on it. And if it does, sometimes it just has just the engine company that initially stretched it. You'll know that first line. But use a grease marker and use the rig as your chalkboard or whatever, or we would just write it on the gauge. Write the companies that are on that hose line. If they call a mayday, or if they ask for more pressure, or something's going on, we want to know the companies on that hose line. So if you have engine 1 and engine 2 helping back them up, then engine 1 and engine 2 are on that line, because we want to be able to quickly identify it. I don't know if Dan has anything else he would, add to that as far as knowing where companies are, but that's something that we shouldn't be wondering who's on what line. Some departments try and identify it by color coding the hose. I always found that was kind of a mess. If somebody's trying to order hose, maybe you have a destroyed piece of blue 1 3/4 inch, and you go down to the shop and it's like, hey, I got red and yellow, I don't have blue. So that doesn't always work. Or if you're extending a line off of the blue, or you're extending yellow line off of the blue, and that gets a little complicated and isn't always very clean, but we can always write down who's on what line.
Perfect. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you. Dan Shaw, Chief Shaw, as an operations chief, I'm going to ask you a silly question. What are your expectations of the engine company, and how do you get there as far as training, education, information? All right. I told you it was a silly question.
Clear, right? Do your job. I mean, we have a very clear doctrine as to what everyone's function is, and we don't operate in a system where engines have to do a lot of truck work, or truck works do engine work. Engine does engine work, truck does truck, rescue companies do rescue company work. So, really focus on what your task is. And I think it comes back to, and kind of in totality, what all you guys are talking about is our fallacy is we don't have an unwillingness to train. We don't know how to train. And so we train people to do things. We don't train them to think. And it's so true when it comes to engine company operations. We will train you how to apply 8 pounds of force in the back of a bale and watch magic happen. But how often do we spend time teaching you nozzle feedback, or like what Steve was talking about when he was talking about, his equation he uses, the same thing we would use in Fairfax. Is, we had an equation that every engine company should know and how they should operate. And that first one is, how do you position the apparatus? We don't park $1 million apparatus. We position it. We position it for tactical success. So how do we do that? And then what is our setback? What is that, from the rig to the door, like Aaron Fields and Steve teaches, what is that? How do you equate to that? Do you look at parking spots, telephone poles? How do you figure out what your stretch is? And it's not just one person. It's all, we had 4 in every apparatus and 5 on the rescue companies. 4 people have to know that, not just one. And then it's the elevation and the turns inside that structure. So does every person on your engine company know that the residential run of stairs is 13 feet? What does 13 feet mean for me as an engine company operator? How do I estimate what is 13 feet of hose to get up those steps? And we would even train on, what your wingspan is. So if I take a hose and stretch it up, my wingspan is how many feet? So if I do 3 stretches, I should have enough hose to make it up that step. And then looking at your buildings you go to, like many of us, you run more nuisance, EMS, fire alarm calls than you do working fires. But we also know every 64 seconds in the United States, we go to a residential building fire. So we know the opportunity exists. So what are you doing when you get into these structures? Are you looking at these buildings you go into for these nuisance calls and these fire alarms and building that equation? Like we would position here. When I was an engine officer, I would always tell my driver, no matter what we were running, hey, we pull in the block, the plug is going to be on your left. It's 3 houses down from the plug. So that he knew every time I gave him directions, the plug was always included. That subconscious reminder that our primary job is to bring water to fires. So that it wasn't a different way I talked when we went to a working fire versus when we went to a medical local or a nuisance call. So it comes back to the idea of like, we need to teach people to do things and not, or we got to go away from just teaching people to do things and then think on the fire ground. And when you look at the way our apparatus is set up, and this is one of the things that we always kind of shared is, our top engines all run over 5,000 runs. So the opportunity, nothing ever replaces putting hose in the street. You'll never ever replace that. But if we were running a bunch of medical locals, why are we not using those as opportunities? So now, if you could put that picture of that, estimate the stretch bucket that we had. So we carry this in our engine, right? I mean, this costs $10. Carpenter string, multiple colors, every 50 feet. And so what we would do is make a game of it, essentially. Like, all right, we just got the patient in the back of the EMS unit. Guys, we're making that 3rd floor apartment. What do you think the stretch is? How many feet? Let's guess it out. Because maybe we can't stretch a hose this time. If you go to the next picture, Nat. So, we just hook it off the back of the apparatus we position. Now you see where every 50 feet of that hose is going to drop. So I know where every coupling is. So when I go into that garden apartment, I know as soon as I go in that door, if I position this apparatus here, I'm going to be right at a well hole with the coupling. Can I use that well hole or not? And so, like I said, nothing replaces the opportunity of actually stretching hose, but having these opportunities to take every call you run to get us closer and closer to developing mastery and stretching hose lines. And not just me, not just the nozzle firefighter, not just the backup firefighter, all of us. Because we all look at the building differently, right? I mean, as an officer, I'm looking at it differently than the nozzle firefighter and the backup firefighter. And I'll reaffirm something Brent said. Matt, can you go to the other picture with the high-rise packs? The high-rise packs, we always talk about hose racks, right? What I love about the one from Fairfax, it's 2 people walking up to the fire. So what I love about this picture and this idea of what we're looking at when the picture pops up is that you have to change the mentality what we're talking about when it gets to high-rise packs. A high-rise pack is just a bundle of hose. We can use any opportunity. It's the next picture, Nat. We can use that in it should be the one of a working fire. It shows a ladder truck up in the air. There it is. Now, do you guys see the high-rise in front of them? Yeah, neither do I. But they're trained and they operate in the capacity that when they have this strip shopping center, they have a working fire in it, they're bringing their hose bundles because engines are positioned up in the front of the building. They don't need to stretch from way back. There's open outlets and discharges on that piece of apparatus. They can stretch right into it. And so just challenging that conventional thought. And even one little step, the next picture that shows the pony sleeves, if you could, Nat. We institute this in all our apparatus, right? A simple 6-foot and 8-foot piece of hose that goes from that chicksaw valve on top down to the street level. Why is that important? Because honestly, the pre-connected crosslay, it was the dumbification of the fire service. We just instantly thought that every fire was within 200 feet where you position. What happens when it's not? What is the plan? What is, much like forcible entry, what's plan A through Z, how we overcome that? And so by instituting this, you have a multitude of options. I don't need hose off the first two engine that might be that dead end cord and might have a reliant stretch. I just need a discharge. I can stretch from anywhere. So they can take that entire 200-foot load and put it on their shoulder and be able to walk up. Even for our RIT, one of the things that I really always reaffirm with our people is this idea that RIT somehow has to accumulate the equivalent of a rescue squad in the front yard is ridiculous. I've never heard anyone call Mayday and say, I need 2 chainsaws and a Stokes basket. They call Maydays because they run out of air, they're lost and disoriented, or they're trapped by fire. So we bring air, we bring water. So that RIT that is fourth due that shows up can disconnect that hose line, walk up to that first or second or third due engine, has a good tactical position, and say, hey, I need this discharge for the RIT line. That's going to be solely dedicated to what we do. But so it's just thinking outside and challenging those conventional ideas, because we want to get closer and closer to mastery. And mastery is a process. It doesn't mean you've gotten to the top of the mountain. It means you just continue to refine and hone your skill. And every time we would do a drill, it didn't matter what the tenure of the people who were on a piece of apparatus, someone had a good idea. Hey, what about this? You want people thinking, you want thinking firefighters, because the worst thing we have on a fire ground is indecision. Yeah. And we want good decisions. We want you to challenge those thoughts before you even get to the fire ground. So now you just get there. It's muscle memory. We've been in this building. I have visualized. I have technically burned this building down 15 times. I'm just waiting for the opportunity for it to be on fire and demonstrate the skill you've been working on. So, there's small incremental things you can do, but it starts with going back to the way we train, and that we want thinking firefighters, not just teach them a skill and say, just go do it. What happens when the fire, which always gets a vote, decides it gets a bigger vote than you? And we have to overcome that.
Perfect, brother. Perfect. Again, that's like a full FDIC class in 7 minutes. So we've got to land this plane. First of all, I'd like to say that rope trick, Bill Gustin taught me that. Bill Gustin taught me that estimating your stretch. It's fast on EMS calls. It's fast. It's clean. We did an EMS call on a 4,000 square foot 3-story house, and pulled the old lady out. And I asked the owner, hey, would you mind if I just put some rope inside your house? And they agreed. And we did exactly that. It was completely clean. We didn't make a mess of their carpets. We just stretched rope from our engine to the most remote part, the master bathroom on the 3rd story in the very corner of the house, just to see if our 200-foot pre-connect could reach that. And it was a good drill.
$10 cost.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing to that, Clark? Because that's a huge point in all of this. But I think that we need to identify one thing. We need to identify what is our travel length and what is the working length. And we got to get out of the habit, if we're taking bundles, that we take working length is the amount of hose we need for the fire to make up for travel. Travel is what we need from the rig to the fire or fire floor. The working length is what we're going to need on the fire. A good golden rule is do not take working length to make up travel length. And the second thing Chief Shaw was talking about when he started about what's your wingspan. We duct tape every single midpoint. That's the 25-foot mark. Like if I'm going vertical up the well hole and I'm going 3 stories, I know I need 30 feet travel in the well. Where's 30 feet look like? Because if you don't preload the well, what's going to happen? It's going to catch the top of the door, the bottom of the stairs. I look down, I see 25 feet. What do? I go 5 feet past that. A simple piece of duct tape will make you so much more efficient working with bundles and or estimating stretch, preloading, not overloading.
And Steve, like I talked about taking Chief Brooks's class, I listened to your class, and after I listened to you, the way you teach, I went through and I duct taped the midpoint of all of my hoses just because of what you talked. And what my dad would always say, Steve, if duct tape won't fix it, it ain't broke.
It ain't broke, right?
It ain't broke.
Folks, one more shameless plug. Clyde Gordon and I will also be doing a 4-hour pre-con workshop on Monday afternoon on Mid-Rise Mayhem. So you'll have a battalion chief's perspective of his priorities, and I get into the how do you accomplish his priorities tactically.
Yep. Perfect. All right, that's it. We ran almost over, so we don't have any time for closing thoughts. But again, I don't think we even touched the surface. So we might want to reconsider more engine company hoselays next month, and we can maybe we can incorporate that into some FDIC talk, because that'll be right before FDIC, would it not?
I'd love that.
So yeah.
I would like to read something while we're closing out.
All right.
Because we have to thank our sponsor too, right?
Yep. Yeah. Would you like to handle that for us, Darryl
Yeah,
Liggins?
so I think a lot of us received from Key Hose this wonderful picture of our old humble cap.
Yep.
And I went to public school, so I'm not the best reader, but I will try and attempt to read what they said here. And they gave this picture to some of the members of the Hangout if we wanted it. It says, thank you, Captain Bill Gustin, for your wisdom, leadership, and dedication. Bill Gustin's impact reached far beyond the fireground, shaping both firefighters and the tools they trust. At Key Hose, we were privileged to work alongside him and witness his unwavering dedication. More than a mentor, Bill was a true collaborator, always pushing us to innovate. His insights helped shape our hoses to meet real-world demands. His legacy lives on in the firefighters he trained and the safer, more effective products he inspired. So, thank you, Bill Gustin.
I don't think there's a more appropriate way to end this. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening live. And if you're going to listen to this recorded, thank you very much as well. If you see us at FDIC, do not ever hesitate to walk up to us and reach out and talk to us. There's not a single celebrity on this chat. Not a single celebrity. We're just a bunch of hose dragging firemen. It's all we are. We don't travel with bodyguards. We don't have an entourage. Except Brooks. Brooks is so important now. He probably has some.
I was going to say he's kind of a big deal.
He's kind of a big deal, yeah. And a lot of times I talk to people and they say, "Oh, I didn't want to bother you." Right? I always put my phone number and my email address at the end of every class. And I see people, I had a question, but I didn't want to bother you. Hey, I've got a news flash. If I didn't want to be bothered, I wouldn't put my phone number on the screen. All right. It's there because I want you to call me. So please, if you ever see us out in public, all right, at the bar, don't ever hesitate to say, "Hey, I've got a question," or "I just wanted to meet you," or anything like that. All right. That's the Bill Gustin way. Yes, sir.
Words of our humble old captain. God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Thanks, guys.